Hello, I'm Daniela. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I make a high-end tag to use in your journals. We'll use rubber stamps and ink and a grommet just to set it. I also use a little kitchen twine. The claim to fame with this piece is that it's all neutrals with a bold color using whatever rubber stamps you have that you like. I like to use text, sometimes a symbol or an image for my stamps. It's a great way to use them. So let's get started. So here are these faux labels. They're made with fabric and just ink pads and stamps, rubber stamps. I use a little grommet and some twine. And I really like them. They look very high-end and they're perfect for journals, either fabric journals or junk journals. I like to just tuck them in the side of the journal or staple them using the little string. The key components of this to really note, regardless of what the text or the images are that it's all a neutral background. So the thing that really stands out and makes it look elegant is just the writing. I used a black here. You don't have to use black. I think different colors would be striking. And it can also make it colorful if you want, because you have that basis, that canvas, blank canvas to work on. It's a really fun technique. You can use strictly text, like I've done here, or you can play around. Here's just a regular stamp that I had, a rubber stamp, and I stamped it and made like just a little tag. That'll be great for a journal. You can make them the theme of your journal, and that's what's so great about personalizing them. I had some stamps here that look like stitching. You could, of course, go over them with stitching if you want, but I think the simplicity of just the inked image is really striking. Let me just show you how I do it. As you can imagine, it's quite simple. So my supplies are the canvas that I use. This is a very light fabric canvas. You can even use a cut-up drop cloth if you want, or some linen, or even some muslin. You can use any color fabric you want. I really like that neutral texture and color scheme, so that's what I stick with. And I just have some twine here. This is just kitchen twine. Again, it matches my background beautifully. I have some rubber stamps. Now, these are a little larger than the ones I showed in the samples, but that's the beauty of it. You can really play around with it. You can get a little stamp that fits a smaller piece, or make the piece custom to the size you want. I think this Eiffel Tower will be beautiful. And the stamp collection came with a bunch of little European symbols and places. I think it was a Tim Holtz one. And I'm going to use just the Paris wording for this to go with this one. And on this one, I'll make another stamped image. I don't know if you can really see it here, but it's just a silhouette of a woman, really. I think it looks really clever. And then for the smaller piece here, I have just another text stamp. It's just text, a little bit hard to read, but it'll be very effective on this piece. I have some grommets. You can use eyelets as well. The difference being the grommets look just like an eyelet, but then you have this little backing piece that secures it together that you put on. You have your fabric in between, and then you crunch it together. And I'll show you how I do that. I like having an assortment of colors, although I tend to stick to either the metal, the white, or the black. Again, trying to stick with that neutral theme. And then I have my tool that I use. This happens to be a Crop-A-Dile, but there are many ways you can secure grommets. This kit comes with a hole punch and then the grommet setter, and the only thing you need to add is a hammer. So that's pretty handy. And then I have my fabric ink pad, and that just requires being heat set with an iron after it's dried to make it permanent. I'm not going to wash or launder these tags, so heat setting is optional. Let's get started right away. So the first thing I like to do is stamp my tags. I'll start with the largest one here, the Eiffel Tower, and then the text for underneath it. So I just gently dab my ink onto my stamp. And I like to have this soft book, you can use a magazine, just to make that nice impression. So I just put it down, press, and I can always trim up the fabric when I'm done. And I'm really happy with the way that came out. I'll trim it accordingly. And now for the stamp, I don't want to use the entire text, just the top part that says Paris and the address underneath. So I'll just very carefully ink up just those areas. Because it's mounted on a clear stamp, I can vaguely see where I want to put it. Just like that. I'll continue to stamp the rest of these, speed this process up. I just like the contrast between the black ink on the linen or the canvas. For this one, I'm not going to use any text. Then for my last tag, I think I'll stamp it this way. I have a nice image. Off camera, I'll clean my stamps, and then we could start trimming them and setting the grommets. Now just a tip, I keep my ink pad, because it dries out quickly, with an elastic around it, either a rubber band or just a hair elastic, just to keep it as close to airtight as possible. If I'm really concerned, I'll put it in a little plastic Ziploc bag just to keep it as wet as possible. So now to heat set these images, I just have a hot iron and I'm just going to press the images just maybe for 5 or 10 seconds for each image. And this just sets the ink right into that fabric. And now I have these images all set. I'm ready to punch my grommets and trim up my fabric. So let's start with the smallest one here. I'm going to take my scissors and just trim it down. And this is going to be a small little label. And by nature, you can pull the edges of this fabric if you want for a little raw finish. I like just a little bit of a raw edge, so I'll do that. And then I can decide how much I want up top. I can punch the hole for the grommet just like it is. I'm just going to trim it down a teeny bit. So now I have my tag. I'll select the color grommet. So I think I'm going to use a black one for this. Got the backing and the grommet. So now I like to just mark where I want the grommet to be, just so I know that it's not really off center. And using my Crop-A-Dile tool, I'll punch a hole. Now sometimes with the fabric, punching a hole, the fabric has so much give that it doesn't make a nice result. So I'll just take a little piece of stiff paper. This happens to be an index card as a backing, and then I'll just come up to my hole and punch it. Now again, because it's fabric, the paper punched nicely, but the fabric didn't. So I just come in here and clip the edge off. It still came out pretty nice. And now I'll just take my grommet, feed it in through that hole, put the backing on it, and then I take my tool again. I'll secure it inside that little peg, and now I just cinch it down. And I have my grommet on my tag, and it looks really adorable. So now I'll punch one using the same technique off camera. For this tag, I kind of like the size of the tag. I may trim it and fray the ends, but I want to show you how I punch the hole using the hollow punch and the little install tool that come in the kit, which I found on Amazon. I just looked for a multicolor grommet kit. There are many options. So now I'll select where I want the grommet to go. Right just here is fine. I'll trim down my tag accordingly. So now that I have it cut to size, it's time to install the grommet. You'll need a hard surface. I just use this healing mat. And then you have your pieces. This piece with a little nib here we'll use after we punch the hole to set it. And the same thing with this. It's a flat bottom with a hole in it, and that fits right in here. And that's used to set the grommet. But first we need to make that hole. So this is the punch, and it has very sharp edges. And if it comes in a kit, it's designed for the size
for the appropriate grommets. You just hold it down where you want it. And so now you whack it. You're going to use a little bit of force. So now the hole didn't come out perfectly clean, but I just take my scissors and just trim it away. So then I have a nice hole there. I'll take the grommet, feed the top in, so I know exactly how it's going to look. And I place it right on this base. I'll take the top of the grommet, make sure it goes down all the way. And then I'll take this other tool here, the install tool. You just want to make sure it goes right down straight, and you could see your piece underneath. Then you take your hammer and you whack it again. And when you remove it, you have your grommet nicely set. So now the last thing I want to do is just make a lanyard knot on the top here. You can choose the length, whatever you'd like. I don't like it too long. This one maybe is 10 inches long or so. I take it and I fold it in half so I have a loop. I push the loop through into the back of the tag, and then I just feed both of these tails through that loop. And I have a simple little lanyard knot on the top. And I'll do the same with these. And there I have my tags. Now let me show you all of them. So these are all the tags that I've made. I think they're adorable. This one in particular, I stamped the word August. I have an uncle named August, and so anytime I see that, it always makes me very happy. So I wanted to include that in my journal. I'll just take a journal, and I can either staple the tag to the outside, which I kind of like that idea, or I can tuck it in. But I think I'm going to staple it. For now, though, I'll just tuck those tails down in that pocket, and I have a cute little addition to my journal.
So that's how I created the high-end tag to use in my journals. Oh, I love this process. It's addicting. I could sit here all day and do it. I hope you've enjoyed it as well. It's just a little something interactive to add to your journals. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. And if you like behind-the-scene content and additional footage, please consider becoming a member of my channel. Thanks for joining me today.